Today, boys and girls, we're going to be starting our Star Stitch Sampler. We use this project as a way to review stitches we've done in the past and to learn new ones. The best part about the star is that there are definite breaks where you will do different stitches. On the Stitch Sampler, we will also learn how to sew on a button and some other decorative items. We will start off with working on the front of the star, which is we're going to cut out a letter first out of a paper pattern and then out of felt. And then we will sew the letter on. So now you'll have two sides to the star that we will then sew together using various stitches that you learned last year and some new ones as well. This will then get stuffed and closed up at the bottom. So here is the star pattern that we're going to be using. The directions for the star project for the beginning of it are here, and we will follow those directions as we go. The first step says to place your name and period number in the center of the star and on the line above. So you'll be putting it in two places. So if this was what I was going to be working on, I would put my name and whatever period I was in. Let's say I was in 1A. And I would also write my name here. Make sure you write your last name as well. I should have said that at the beginning. There are very many students with the same name, so we do need to have a last name. The date will be the date that you start the project. So I'm going to write here start date and your period number. In this case, we're using 1A. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to cut this pattern out. Now, at home here, these are my shears that I use for paper. All right. And the reason why I use these for paper is they're older now and they're a little more dull. So I use my good scissor on fabric. Okay. Now, when you are cutting out the star, all right, the next direction says cut the star pattern above out just outside of the solid line, which is known as the cutting line. So we're using this line as our cutting line. I happen to like this pattern because when I show you how to pin, it makes it very easy for you to know where to put your pins. All right? But we're going to be cutting out. So I started cutting it for you. Now you'll notice when I cut, I'm cutting outside of the line so that I still see the line on the pattern. I'm not cutting on the line, I'm cutting just outside of it. Okay, so here we go. Now be very careful when you're doing that so that you don't cut your corner. So we're going to finish cutting the star out. Now, even though we're going to be using two stars, two pieces of material, we only need to cut one star because what we'll do is when we finish using one, we take the pins off and use it someplace else. Now, the reason why I told you to keep your name on here is just kind of trim it down. And this you're going to keep in your bag with your directions, so that way you know what to do. So here's your star. There are your directions. The next step, okay, is to take a piece of your felt. All right? Your felt has a little tag on the back. You can take that off before you begin cutting. Next, I'm going to be using my ballpoint pins. This is good for you to see while I'm demonstrating, all right, because you'll be able to see the color pins on the material and on the paper. So what we want to do, all right, is we're going to pin the star down to the top upper left corner. Notice the material has to be horizontal. You will place a pin on each section of the star along the inner line. You will be using about 10 pins. Your felt should be horizontal when you're looking at it, looking down. And you want to make sure that every one of these points are on the material. Now, the reason why I say to put it over here, okay, is so that we don't waste all this. If we took the star and cut it right there, we would waste all that material. We do it here so that way excess material that we have, we either hold on to cut our letter out of it, or we put it in the scrap bin for someone else to use it. If you happen to be using the same color for both the back and the front, you'll be able to take this pattern and put it over here, and you get 2 stars out of 1. So when we pin, we take our pin, and what we need to do is you need to push it down, and then on the back, you're going to pop it out with your other finger. So you put it in. Now I put one there first, and then I put one here, so that way I know it's on the felt, and it's laid nice and flat. After each pin, I flatten it out. My paper is on the felt in both points. Now I can go around and finish pinning. Once I am finished pinning, I'm going to take my scissors, my shears I should say. This is a bent handle shear, and I'm going to cut out the pattern. Again, you want to be very careful. Now these scissors are very large, but these are the ones I have at home. I don't have my small scissors with me here, so I'm doing my best. Okay, so you cut all the way around, and you will be graded on your cutting as well. Okay, that's one of the aspects of the rubric. Cutting, believe it or not, involves a lot of manual dexterity. You have to have patience. Move your material away from you so you don't cut it. These scissors cut very nicely because they're very sharp. And once you're done, there you go. You have your first star. Once your star is cut from your pattern, from your material, I should say, all right, you then can take your pins off, and you're going to hold on to your own pins because we're going to try not to share pins, so these pins will become the pins that you will use. And you'll keep those in your plastic bag for right now until we can find the little plastic boxes that they were out of at the dollar store. So now I have 1 star. Now, if I'm using the same color, I can just take this and maneuver it so that it fits onto my other piece. If you're not using the same color, this piece here will go into the scrap bin, or you can share it with your neighbor rather than cutting a whole new piece. And you'll do the same thing. You'll repeat steps 2 and 3 as we did before. And that will be how to cut out your 2 stars out of your material. Once you're done, you will have your 2 stars, your star pattern. Do not throw this away because this is what you're going to use when you want to hand it in. This will be your name tag for me. And with the small pieces that you really can't use for anything else, a good idea for right now, like I said, until we get the boxes, is just take your pins and put them like this on your extra piece of material. And then starting tomorrow, we'll learn the next step, and that would be how to sew on or how to cut out a letter.